Today on the show, we talk about the situation going on in Ohio State, ESPN's top 25 power rankings. Then we have Mark Billings on the show, and also we get Don's opinion on the situation with Urban Meyer. This is the ATL Fan Podcast on FansFavoriteFan.com. It is Football Friday. Well, you guys know I do a lot of advertising for Spaces, and this time I'm actually at a new location, still in Midtown Atlanta, but a couple blocks north at Colony Square at Space's newest location that is still under construction, but still the same friendly folks, and they're looking to, they're excited over here to see when it all gets completed. And I have the regional manager here, Jessica Woods, to tell us more about it.
Thank you, Alex, for the opportunity to expand on the services that we offer here at Spaces Colony Square. We're currently located in the 400 building of Colony Square in Suite 300. We are under construction, as Alex mentioned before, with the other two floors expecting to be finished about mid-2019. We currently offer a combination of private office space and shared office space that are both available for move-in today. We're offering flexible lease terms and a ton of networking opportunities. Come in and mention Alex for a free 5-day test drive to just see and fill out the space. You can check us out at www.spacesworks.com or give us a call at the center at 404-870-9000. Thank you, Alex.
Well, thank you, and I will put the link to Spaces on the show description, so be sure to check out Spaces Colony Square. First, I just want to start off with, I thought it would be appropriate to start with some congratulations, and we just want to say a congratulations here at Fans Favorite Fan to Chipper Jones for making it into the Baseball Hall of Fame this past Sunday. And this is one of the things that the Braves organization has been talking about since Chipper got the call this at the beginning of the year. So now it's finally come true. And I saw an interview on Fox Sports South with Bobby Cox, and he said something interesting. I thought it was kind of funny, but at the same time, it was a little surprised that he talked about that he always loved having Chipper's dad around because he always liked talking baseball with Chipper's dad, because he describes Chipper's dad as a true baseball man. So it was just interesting hearing that perspective, and that they would usually kick parents out of the clubhouse. And I was a little surprised that parents would try to frequent the Braves clubhouse, but they liked Larry Jones being around, and especially too because he was the only one that could straighten out Chipper and talk some sense into him. And I thought about that for a second. I'm like, why are we having parents around a professional organization? That I'm like, oh yeah, Chipper got drafted in the Braves like at 19 and got called up to big leagues at 20. So hey, it probably didn't hurt having some parental guidance around when needed, and especially since he said he's the only one that could talk sense into him. But also want to give congratulations to the city of Atlanta for hosting their first MLS All-Star game. And the All-Star game was this past Wednesday here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it seemed like everything went off with a hitch, and there were no complaints on Twitter from what I've seen or heard about. It wasn't like the CFP National Championship. Everything's going smoothly until the day of, but it seemed like everything went pretty smoothly throughout. Just to let you guys know, this is the ATL Fan Podcast. I'm Alex Berger. We are with FansFavoriteFan.com, so be sure to check out FansFavoriteFan.com FansFavoriteFan.com. If you're a real sports fan, you're definitely going to love Fans Favorite Fan. We preferably, when you listen to this podcast, we want you to check out the website after you listen. But if you have a device that can multitask, go check it out right now. We are with FansFavoriteFan.com. At this time in college football, it seems like everything is going according to schedule, because in a month from now, we're going to be kicking off and having live games, but everyone's in camp right now. And last year, we had the Hugh Freeze situation kind of pop out of the middle of nowhere, where Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss did the Ole Miss style. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with that situation. And right now we're in college football. We have the Urban Meyer situation going on right now. I don't want to get into too many details about that, but one of his assistant coaches had sexual assault charges on him. Urban fired him a couple of months ago, and now it's kind of coming back with this with Title IX charges against Urban Meyer, because he allegedly did not report the abuse that was going on. And it always seems like with Ohio State that their controversies, their scandals, they come out of the middle of nowhere. I mean, you thought in 2010, Ohio State's just kind of chugging along to whatever BCS Bowl they were in. I forget which one, but then they just get blindsided by the Terrell Pryor, the tattoo scandal that was involved with their quarterback Terrell Pryor. And yeah, these scandals come out of the middle of nowhere, and especially with Ohio State right now, because there are one of the highly favored teams going into this season. A lot of people have them in their if magazines like Feel Still, but they have them in their playoff prediction. So it's not like Ohio State's one of those teams that are in the top 10 or something like that. No, they're right up there. They're one of the teams that's predicted to win it all, especially to win the Big Ten. So this has just come at a inconvenient time, obviously, for Urban Meyer, because he's trying to get ready for a season. But just when we thought everything was pretty much going to plan and there were no scandals out there, we have this happen. And your foundation as a head coach, and this is another example that's proven this, that your foundation as a head coach in college football, it's just based on a house of cards. You remove one card, the whole thing falls down. And a part of me feels a little sad for Urban Meyer that he has to go through this, that he's trying to protect one of his own guys, but it's just a sad situation all around. Now we're going to bring Mark Billings on the show, and I just want to let you guys know that a little bit of background on today. We have a special guest on. For the first time, we have Mark Billings, a former football player from the University of Cincinnati, is joining the ATL Fan Podcast and just getting his take on the defense side of the ball, because here on the podcast we talk a lot about offensive football, which I know a lot of you guys like and enjoy, but I just thought we would just talk a little ball on the other side of the line, and just bringing Mark on to talk some D-line stuff. So Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, no problem. So I just want to get into your background because you played ball at the University of Cincinnati. You were actually recruited here. So just tell me about what was it like being living here in Atlanta and having to go all the way up to Ohio to play college ball?
It was interesting because it's really the first time I have really been out the state of Georgia. When I started the recruitment process, there was opportunities for me to play in a closer rank, I guess, down in the SEC. Had some visits in some schools down here, but it was just a unique opportunity to go up to Cincinnati. At the time, it was a program that was up and coming. The real big push was that if you want to come in and you want to play, do you want to sit behind a guy for a couple years, or do you want to go ahead and get out here and play and continue your career? So that's what I looked at as an opportunity to kind of get outside the norm, outside of what I'm used to, and hopefully, grow myself as a man, and then also get an opportunity to actually play versus sit for a couple years and hopefully get a chance to get on the field.
Mm-hmm. What was it like since you grew up around here and then you had to travel so far away from home?
Mm-hmm.
And what would be some advice? Because I know a lot of kids right now are in your position getting recruited by SEC schools, but you're probably only going to have a chance to play as a junior if you go to one of those schools. But the only shot you got is to go far out into the country. So what would your advice be to some of the kids that are listening right now who are in that same situation?
Well, I would say look at it as an opportunity because, you just never know what you're going to get by going out and taking that chance. Obviously everyone wants to be able to play close by home. You want to have your family and friends in the stands. That's great. But, if you have an opportunity where you can kind of broaden your horizons and get to some place that you've never been, a place that you may not ever get a chance to go to otherwise, you got to look at it. You got to take a good look at where you can go and play, what's going to be the best fit for you overall, not just athletically, academically. Where can you possibly see yourself maybe even staying after school? And I looked at all those things, and it turned out great for me. I had a great time at the university, got a lot of great friends there, stayed there for another 10 years after I graduated. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I wouldn't change it.
Now, were you there when Brian Kelly was there?
Brian Kelly came actually a couple years after I graduated. Rick Mentor was the head coach when I was there. He actually coached down here at Georgia State for a little while. He stays here in Georgia now. I met Brian Kelly when he was there at Cincinnati. After he had left Western Michigan, he came over and I met him once or twice. Did big things. He really put us on the map for a short period of time there. We were nationally ranked, went to a BCS bowl game under Brian Kelly. So, definitely thankful for what he did. Really didn't like the way he left the situation, but can't hurt. Can't be mad at him that he went to Notre Dame, bettered himself. Obviously worked out for him, but now we had to move on. Had Butch Jones that was there right after him. So
right.
Another Western Michigan coach. That was really weird. We hired back-to-back Western Michigan coaches. Like, what was that kind of connection?
Oh, dang.
And he came in and he kept the program going well for a while, and then he wound up taking the job at Tennessee. So it's been an interesting situation, kind of seeing, okay, who's going to kind of stick and stay and kind of try and build a program instead of kind of using it as a stepping stone.
And then they hired Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah, that was kind of a step back, honestly. I think anybody who was an alumni kind of thought, like, okay, he's at the end of his career here. Like, are we like he's looking to kind of get a couple more paydays before he ends his career? What are we doing? Like, are we just going after a name at this point versus trying to go after someone that can kind of stick and stay? And we got the results of that. We got a coach that was just happy to be here, trying to get ready to go into his retirement. And he's still in Ohio. He stayed in Ohio, so it was easy for him. I'm like, I'm just going to retire right here. So if you guys want to give me as many years as you want to give me, okay. But now, we've moved on from him as well. So
there you go. Well, it seems like Cincinnati is always that school for coaches that is kind of a landing platform.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of get discovered from there. Because it's like, I didn't know that background of Butch Jones. I just knew the Butch Jones of Tennessee.
Exactly.
But yeah, I just want to get right into it, talking college ball. And between Clemson and Alabama, Auburn, which one of those schools do you think is going to have the most dominance on the defensive line?
I think, from what I've read and what I've seen, you got to give it to Clemson. Clemson right now, they've got 4 guys that can all pretty much be first-round draft picks. Just a matter of, where they fall and who needs what in the NFL draft. But their whole D-line could go to the NFL draft and be drafted first and second round. So you got to give a nod to them. The productivity that they did last year and have so many, those guys returning back is going to be big. Then from there, it's a coin flip between Alabama and Auburn. I think Auburn right now has a little bit of a push because of their productivity they did last year as well, returning starters and such. And then I think Alabama will be right after that. And then actually Michigan State. Michigan State was in the top 5 for most publications as far as D-lines in the country. So they had 4 out of the top 5 was in the SEC. That's pretty good.
Wow, yeah. Usually don't hear about Michigan State being – like that isn't really their forte on the line.
I'm sorry, Mississippi State.
Oh, Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. Yeah, Mississippi State. I meant Mississippi State. Yeah, Mississippi State. I think was number 5 in like the Sporting News and in Bleacher Report.
Right.
For D-line. Auburn was, I believe, 4. Auburn was like 3. Alabama was 4, and Clemson was number 1. So, yeah, I think that everyone's potentially thinking that Clemson is going to have a heck of a D-line this year.
Right, and it's kind of theirs to lose in the ACC. But I want to ask you more about Auburn's line.
Yeah,
because they had a stellar defensive line this past year, but it's like they lost some guys, but at the same time they just kind of restocked and reloaded. And what are your thoughts on Auburn?
I think the Auburn's line is definitely good. They've got 2 guys that could potentially be first-round draft picks, both D-ends. They've got one D-tackle. He kind of goes back and forth from D-tackle to D-end. So they're all disruptive guys. And from what I've seen, the tackle for loss ratios, all those guys are getting after it, getting behind the line, making plays. And that's what you want your defensive line to do. Obviously, the first thing is point of attack and, don't let the offense move you past the line of scrimmage. But if you can get guys that can get off the block and can make tackles behind the line, that changes the game.
And why did you put Alabama as in that 3 spot out of those 3 schools?
I said just because of the fact that like they kind of always reload as well, but this year they're reloading. We're not really sure. They've got the one D tackle. Gosh, I can't remember his name right now. He's the big guy. Was he like 6'7", 360? What's his name? Davis, Raekwon Davis.
Raekwon Davis,
yeah,
okay.
That guy is a freaking monster. You see him walking on one side of the street, you walk on the other side. Like 6'7", 306, and he can get off the ball. He can play the pass. He can play the run. Him by himself is a game changer. But overall, Auburn has 4 guys that can potentially get after it. So you just got to kind of go with the numbers until we see, who they're going to fill in now that they've had a couple people leave from Alabama.
Right. What about Mississippi State? Since they're one of these schools that are flying under the radar, and you think what's going on with the Bulldogs is having a new head coach and Joe Moorhead, and you had a lot of people return on offense. So you think that they're going to be successful on the offense side of the ball, but it looks like they're going to have a solid D line. What do you credit that to?
Well, they've got both their defensive ends, once again, and I guess it's a common theme of both like potential first, second round draft picks. They've got Simmons, who's a beast here. What he had with 60 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, and then Montez Sweat, who was another 15 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks. you don't see that every day on one team. You got a D line that's like that. And they're all SEC players on both teams. So I mean, you've got two guys there that's going to be all SEC players every year. So I mean, it speaks for itself. They're both going to be first round draft picks from what I've seen, from what I've read. Sweat and Simmons. So that's got to boost your defensive line. It's got to boost your defense in general.
Now, when you, I just wonder, like, as a player, when you have guys like that, because you mentioned a couple with Clemson and with all these lines that we talked about so far, that they have guys that have potential to be first-round draft picks. Does that make you feel real confident as a player?
Yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you've got a guy, I play D tackle, so, you've got these guys out here at DN that are going to pretty much – they're going to move the line coverage and the protection is going to go towards these guys. So if you got two guys that both you have to watch, you can't slide the protection both ways. You got to do it either to the left or the right. So that means that you're going to either have running back staying in, chipping, so that's one less person in the route. And you're going to get a lot more one-on-one opportunities from the D tackle standpoint. So if you're a defensive tackle, you're like, awesome. You guys go out here and double him, double that defensive end, double this other defensive end. That means I got one-on-one opportunities with this guard. Or if you're at nose tackle, I got one-on-one with this center. I'm actually closer to making a sack or making a tackle for loss. So hopefully that it helps me get my numbers up as well.
Now, since we've evolved offensively and a lot of things now are predicated on offensive-wise, reading a D end, as a defensive lineman, I'm just curious, like, how do you prepare for that, or how, especially when you know that you're going to be the guy that is going to dictate where the play is going to go?
Well, it's all about key assignments. So no matter what if they're reading you or how they're going to play off of what you do, you got to do what your assignment is. If your assignment is you're running the veer or you're running some type of pitch offense, your assignment is to get the quarterback or get the deepest person every time. Then you just do that. You can't worry about falling for the banana in the tailpipe and going for I'm gonna go and get this running back or the fullback that's going down. No, you do that, then every time they're coming right around the outside and they've got 15, 20 yards. You have to assignment football. You do what you're supposed to do, and you're going to trust that your other guys are doing what they're supposed to do. And you do that every time, then, that's kind of why that offense sometimes doesn't really work that well in the NFL, because in college, you're pretty much hoping that someone's not going to do their job. Right. But in NFL, people are paid to do their job. So I'm going to do this every time because my paycheck is on the line. So that's all it is. It's just you got to do what you're supposed to do. Whatever your assignment is for that particular play, you do that every time, and you hope that the rest of your teammates are doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about one of the local teams, the Georgia Bulldogs, because they return guys like Tyler Clark, Julian Rochester, and Jonathan Ledbetter. So how do you feel like the Bulldogs are going to fare on the line this year?
I think they're going to be really good. I think they're a little bit of a sleeper, which is funny seeing that you made it to the national championship and, your defensive line or anybody on your whole team would be a sleeper.
Right, because they're like ranked 15th right now and feel still on their position breakdown. Right.
Now, I saw that. But, I mean, they potentially have guys, once again, that can go in the first round, second round, Ledbetter. I wouldn't be surprised if he went first round or second round. So you got potential there. I think it's just a matter of them actually putting that potential to the play and out on the field. They had a really good recruiting class from a D-line and defensive standpoint. So I think they've got a lot of guys that are going to come in that's going to play early. A lot of times people look to the offense like, okay, we got these guys that are going to come in, but they've got some defensive guys that I think are going to come in and play early as well. So the strength is in numbers. So, when you got opportunity to be able to kind of switch people out when your first team goes down and your second team can come in and you don't miss a beat, that helps. And I think they're a pretty deep team.
Interesting. Even though they're only ranked 15th right now and feel still. So, I want to talk right now about the Atlanta Falcons. And, got a guy like Grady Jarrett, who grew up here, went off to college and then came back.
Right.
Is that like the dream for a lot of guys, especially who grew up around here, that you get to go off, play college ball, and then come back here and play for the Falcons?
You know what? And it's funny because I think growing up as a high school player, college player, that is the dream, to be able to come and play in front of your home team. But as you get older, you kind of see some of those guys that have did that. The pressure is extreme. It's extreme pressure playing in front of your home team, because on top of the fact that you're playing in front of the city that you grew up playing in and everything, you've got the pressure of fans, you got the pressure of family members always being there. So you got a lot of outside pressure that's actually on top of you. Not so much the pressure from the actual team or football wise, but you got pressure from the outside.
Right.
I've got to get 300 tickets because everyone wants to come to the game. You got to worry about that. I'm supposed to be focusing on this game, but I've got all these people that I got to worry about if they're where they're supposed to be at and everything. So it's a little bit of a gift and a curse to play in front of your home team.
Interesting. I never would have thought that, but I can see that angle at the same time, why it could be so pressure filled.
Well, it's funny because what's his name? Defensive end for the Seattle Seahawks that was there. He was looking at coming over to Atlanta last year. Bruce Irvin. You know, Bruce Irvin is from Atlanta. He had an opportunity to come back here, but he didn't want to play in Atlanta. He has an organization. I think his foundation comes and does things for kids here in Atlanta, but he did not want to play in Atlanta. And the reason was just what I talked about, all the things that come along with playing back and being back in the city that you're from. He was more of a street guy, so he had a lot of things that he did that he didn't really he wasn't really happy with when he was a teenager and such. And he said, I would hate to I've grown from those situations. I'm not that guy anymore.
Right.
But I would hate to come back here playing for this city and then some of those things come back to haunt me. So it was better for him to go and play all the way on the other side of the country with LA, so he doesn't have to worry about those things. And he can just still come back here and visit when he wants to. But he's proof that he had the opportunity to play here, but he just said, nah, I'd rather play somewhere else. With less pressure from the locals.
Interesting. How do you feel like the Falcons are going to fare with their line play this year?
I mean, I think the reason why they really haven't made a lot of moves is because they felt pretty good about what they already had in place. Another year in the defense, you can't hurt. Guys get a little bit older, as far as wisdom and knowing what to do and knowing what's coming at you. I think they're going to be fine. I would hope that they would have kind of shored up Grady's contract so he could feel a little bit better during the offseason.
But there's the Julio Jones situation that kind of took a little priority.
Yeah, it's weird because I thought the priority was Grady, but then Julio kind of said, hey, I'm still the top guy here other than Matt Ryan. So.
I really do think that was Jimmy Sexton.
Do you think so?
Julio doesn't seem like that type of guy.
You would think not, but somebody was in his ear saying that you better say something now. What if something happens? What if something happens? And that's what it is. I mean, it's an unfortunate part of football.
What if you get injured again?
Exactly. You keep on getting injured, that number is not going to move.
Right. Right.
So. Yeah, but I think overall, I think the D-line is going to be fine. I think we'll get a little bit more pressure. It's going to be interesting how they use Vic Beasley. Hopefully they don't try and use him at linebacker anymore because we saw that wasn't very good. I mean, he didn't do a bad job. It's just that's not really what we're paying him to do.
Right.
You need to go out and get how you go from 15 sacks to 6 or something like that.
Right.
So hopefully they're putting him in a position to get sacks and not covering.
Right. Now, I just want to ask you real quick. We don't have a lot of time left,
sure.
But what's your thoughts on the Urban Meyer situation that just recently came out? And did you ever have any issues like that when you were in college with head coaches, or even at the high school level with stuff going on like that with coaches?
No, I mean, Well, I would say that they did a really good job of shadowing us from that. If anything happened like that wasn't on the up and up with coaches, I wasn't aware of it. And unfortunately, we went through quite a few coaches when I was in college. High school, we pretty much had the same coaching staff the whole time, and all of them were pretty good guys. A lot of them I still am in contact with now, but through college, other than just having this, each year trying to figure out if you're going to have the same coach or not, that was the worst thing that happened. But no situations to the effect that's happening up at Ohio State. I think it's a bad situation, of course, for the program, bad situation for Urban Meyer, because I think that he could have made the situation better if he just kind of did what he should have did. I think he counseled the guys, so I guess he knew them on a personal level, and he really wanted to help them in their marriage, from what I've heard. But once it gets to a certain point, you got to do what you have to do as a head coach and make someone aware. So that way, the onus is not on you anymore. I made my higher ranking officials, whomever, aware, and we had to move forward. Business wise, personally, I can still help counsel you, but now he's going to have to take the brunt of it, and he's probably going to be out of a job.
It's interesting how just one little thing, like Urban Meyer won a national championship and averages 11 wins a season.
Right.
And just that one little thing. It kind of the same thing with Joe Paterno. Joe Paterno was a legend. Yeah. And one thing came out, and now it seems like nowadays in college football that you're literally, like, your foundation of your program is just it's just like one of those card triangles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one little thing can just make it all fall down. Yeah,
the house
exactly.
of cards comes falling down. Yeah, it's a difficult thing being the head coach. I think that's why the longer you are head coach, the potential for something happening is a lot better. It's like the more and more you drive on the roads, the potential of you having an accident kind of goes.
Right.
And that's kind of one of those things as well. The longer you're head coach, the harder it is to keep your arms around everything and know about every potential situation. But a situation like this is obviously someone that came right back to his doorstep, right to his house. So literally, like, you can't avoid that. It's just a question of why didn't you do anything about it? And that's going to be the thing that he's going to have to explain.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mark, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yes, I appreciate it. Like I say, anytime, I appreciate the opportunity to get on and talk football. It's an outlet for me to be able to talk about it and get out my thoughts, so I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Well, thanks for being on the show today.
Not a problem.
Now, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, and I actually just want a second opinion on the matter with the situation going on at Ohio State with Urban Meyer. We actually have the queen bee of fans' favorite fan is Dawn Montgomery Green, and I just want to get her take on what she thinks on Urban Meyer's situation.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm the queen bee now. That's awesome.
Yes, you are.
So, I just, I've seen some things. I've been quiet and mute about it. And it's been, many of you that have listened to this podcast since day one, you know that I'm an Ohio State fan. That was my college football team that I fell in love with thanks to my mom and my father. My father's from Mansfield, Ohio. My mom's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. They met at Southern Miss. Southern Miss is my second favorite college football team, and that's my hometown. And, Ohio State just has a history of putting their African-American athletes up front and first, just looking at the history of the athletic program and what they've done back in the day. They were known for breaking barriers and things like that. So when it comes to a situation like this, the last time that I saw something about an Ohio State coach being fired was Jim Tressel, sweater vest. He was one of my favorite college football coaches, and the situation where he was fired was very unfortunate, and that was dealing with the tattoo gate scandal with some of the players receiving, free tattoos and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So at this point, the situation with Urban Meyer and his longtime assistant, Zach Smith. Zach Smith has been alleged to, beating his wife, Courtney Smith. She has spoken out with Stadium. I think that's the website, Watch Stadium. She spoke to a journalist there, and she was sharing her story. And also, shouts out to former ESPN journalist Brett McMurphy. I think it's amazing that he broke that story on Facebook as a Facebook post, all because Urban, said that Brett was lying about making the accusation that Urban knew. And in Brett breaking that story, Brett had text messages from Coach Meyer's wife, Shelly, where she was communicating back and forth with Courtney Smith about what she had to deal with. So, with me being a wife, pillow talk, and, I work with my husband, and it's just one of those things where I just don't think if you know something about an employee like that, or an employee's spouse or a family member, that you just wouldn't talk with your husband about it.
How can you not?
Like, at all. So it's just one of those things where you knew. So now if Coach Meyer knew, what was his next steps? And many of us don't, you may not know how this would go, but in a situation like this, compared to what happened at Penn State, where, if the head coach knows that something's going on, you've got to report it, and it's a matter of, at this point at Ohio State, how does Ohio State handle Title IX issues, and where does this fall in importance? You get what I'm saying? And when I say in importance, it's more so like, you've got a coach who has been beating his wife since 2009. And granted, you guys haven't been at Ohio State since 2009, but there's history of domestic violence. You allowed this man to continue to be staffed by you, to be paid by you through a university, and it's like you're walking into a locker room and you're telling players, don't put your hands on your girlfriend. How does that work? Like, for me as a parent, that bothers me. And mind you, I know Urban can't be in Coach Smith's household to manage how this man is dealing with his wife and with his children. But what he can do is he can set an example for his players. And I think that that's where a lot of this fire is coming, to get Coach Meyer, because even if Coach Smith is, let go, or if he no longer has a job, then it's like, okay, now what do we do with Coach Meyer? How do we, keep this from happening again? What does he know about his other coaches and what's going on in their households? Because again, the biggest thing I've talked about, or that I haven't seen anybody really address, is how can we hold coaches accountable the same way we hold players accountable? I mean, if you're being paid millions of dollars, in this case for these head coaches, you're paying millions of dollars. You are responsible for hiring, someone that can come and be an example on and off the field to your players. And if you deem it okay for this man to do whatever he's doing in his household, and you turn a blind eye and you're not helping this young woman in this situation, then to me, you're just as responsible as the person who put their hands on, on her. And it's frustrating. So I just feel as if of course, it's the domestic violence part of this situation is the biggest issue. Zach Smith needs to be prosecuted. He needs to be in jail. I'm sorry. He's done, and someone needs to make sure that Courtney Smith is getting counseling and that she is able to move on past this, because she's been dealing with this since the first year of her marriage. I think she said, like, it was after like maybe 1 year of marriage, he started putting his hands on her. So, she's going to need help during this if she's not already getting that. And then the second thing is, if Coach Meyer knew, and all of these other people knew on campus, as well as coaches' wives and whomever is affiliated with the university, it's like, when are we going to be mindful of bringing down or holding everyone accountable that is a part of the cover-up?
Well, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. It seems like with Ohio State mm-hmm. that when controversies happen, mm-hmm. that it's not like SMU in the 80s. Like that, the writing was on the wall with that. Right. It always seems like you guys get blindsided by something. Like the tattoo thing came out of the middle of nowhere.
And so for me, the other thing that I commented on, and shouts out to the coaches that reached out to me that know I'm an Ohio State fan, but we're waiting on recruits to decommit, and then we're asking me questions about how I felt about this. But one of the things that I posed to them was, to me, it's amazing and it's unfortunate that this is probably going to be the thing to get Urban fired. But for a lot of people, I want people to kind of like pay attention. With Jim Tressel, there was a lot more things. There was like other things that were going on there, but it took tattoos to get him out of there. Here it is.
But it's Jim Tressel,
right? And then here it is. You've got whatever's going on under Urban Meyer, and I kind of know a little bit, but it's going to be the very thing that most people say he has no control over, because it wasn't him in that situation. But I just feel like, what are we going to do in the event that it takes just this one thing to get rid of a coach? Then it's like, what else is there going on if this is that one thing that really takes him out, just because you're applying it to a movement that's happening, through social media and some other things. So it was blindsiding, and I feel like majority of us loyal Ohio State fans, we're being very calculated in how we respond about it and how we talk about it. But I've been telling people since day one, since we got Urban and how we got Urban, I didn't like how that situation went down. And I told people, like, let's just pay attention to how he brings on his coaching staff, what's going on with his players. We've seen some of his players spaz out on social media, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, the writing was on the wall, like it was coming, but what was it going to be, and what was it going to take to bring him down?
All right. Well, thank you, Dawn.
No problem. Thanks for asking.
Again, we just want to thank Mark for coming on the show. I thought it was interesting, his stuff about Grady Jarrett, how it's more pressure to play in front of your hometown team. Also, too, is great to get Dawn's opinion on what's going on with Ohio State and just getting a woman's perspective on that particular situation. But right now, this is when we need your guys' help, because we are the ATL Fan Podcast, and the key word in that title is fan, because we are all about serving the fans of the Falcon fans, the Georgia Tech fans, the Georgia fans, the Atlanta United fans, the Brave fans, the Hawk fans. We're all about serving you guys. So be sure to hit that like button wherever you see this podcast. If you see it on Fans Favorite Fan social media, be sure to hit that like button, because that like button goes further, faster. Right now, we are currently on Podbean. That's the hosting platform that hosts the ATL Fan Podcast, but we should be on everywhere where podcasts can be found on the internet. So we'll let you know when that happens. Also, too, we're trying to figure out creative ways to make the show a little bit more interactive for you guys. So we'll let you know when we make those changes. Also, too, another helpful thing that could help us out if you put something in the comment section, because we want to know what you think, how you feel about this show. So be sure to write your comments in the comment section. That would be awesome. And football is coming very, very soon. Episode 74 is out.